Hi, my name is Elijah Jones, and I am a consultant with the Ohio Association of County Behavioral Health Authorities. Welcome to this recording of Help, My Kid is Stressing Me Out with Dr. Adrienne Elhai. This webinar is co-sponsored by the Great Lakes MHTTC and SAMHSA. The Great Lakes ATTC, MHTTC, and PTCC are funded by SAMHSA under the following cooperative agreements. The opinions expressed in this recording are the views of the speaker and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services and SAMHSA. The MHTTC network believes that words matter and uses affirming, respectful, and recovery-oriented language in all activities. Our speaker, Dr. Adrienne Elhai, is a clinical psychologist currently in private practice at Central Behavioral Health Care. Her experience is focused on youth with a wide range of behavioral and emotional symptoms who present in inpatient, outpatient, and residential settings. She has co-authored over 15 peer-reviewed articles and book encyclopedia chapters and has presented at more than 30 professional presentations and national conferences. She has over 20 years of experience working with youth in their caregiving system. Dr. Adrienne Elhai, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to hearing what you have to share.
Thank you for that introduction. Welcome, parents. I know you're really busy, so I'm glad that you were able to tune in today. I hope you're able to do it while you're relaxing, maybe have a coffee. So today we're talking about parenting. I don't know if you're aware, but the Surgeon General issued an advisory on parenting's effects on mental health. So I don't think that's really surprising to any of us who are parents. We know that parenting is stressful. Um, those who take care of others often don't take care of ourselves, and it really increases our risk for poor outcomes. So the advisory really is a strong call for us to take care of ourselves, and it's a strong call for both parents and for the community at large. So as you listen today, I really hope that you either hear something new that is helpful to you, or it's a reminder for you to recommit to something that you've done in the past. People come to parenthood in a lot of different ways. It may be planned, it may be something that was really unexpected, it may take years or it may take months, and it may come through biological means, or maybe it came through foster care or adoption. Some people are really ecstatic and joyful about parenthood, and sometimes it comes with a lot of mixed emotions. But however parenthood comes, it involves inevitably a lot of change, significant change. And the thing about this change is that it causes a lot of stress, or can cause a lot of stress. So when we look at this stress, it impacts parents themselves. And we see here that parents versus non-parent adults often report a lot more stress. 1 in 3 parents in the last month said they had high levels of stress, and that affected their own families. And this is compared to the non-parent adults, where it's only 1 in 5 adults. Half of parents say they're experiencing stress, overwhelming levels of stress, more days than not. And this is compared to 25% of other adults who don't have children. Research indicates when we're looking at not just stress, which is hard enough, but mental health conditions, that about 25% of parents are experiencing a mental illness, and about 6% are experiencing a severe mental health concern. And some of these parents are at even an increased risk, and those parents are those who live in communities with violence, or they're experiencing domestic violence, or they are those parents who have job instability, unemployment? Are those with racial or ethnic minorities or sexual and gender minorities? And then we also think of those parents who just recently had a baby in the last year, especially those mothers who are African American. Now, for the most part, I'm really going to be focusing on us as parents, but sometimes it's hard, when we're parents to really be inspired to take care of ourselves. And so we really need to think about how parent affects children because we know that parents' mental health affects children. And when parents are struggling with stress and mental health, children are an increased risk for the same. So we see here that children are an increased risk for symptoms of depression, anxiety, and other behavior problems. And also they're going to be an increased risk at a younger age. And this can be experienced, like functional impairment across daily activities, problems at school, problems in the relationship. So it's really important that parents are taking care of their mental health. When we know, and you all know this, you're stressed out, you're irritable, you're overwhelmed, and you're struggling with all of these sorts of things, it's harder for you to really be present there with your child. It's harder for you to have all the energy that it takes to take care of your children. And this is really why it's affecting your parenting. But a key thing that uh, it's important to know is that uh, whether or not parental mental health really has the increased risk for affecting children is their parents' ability to consistently caregive. So if a parent is still able to provide safety, provide stability, provide support, and provide that bonding and attachment, then a child is much more protected. So it's not all bad news. And it's important to remember that because I know that I'm providing a lot of seemingly bad news here. So let's look at these stressors. And while I do that, I really want us to take a breath. And I'm actually going to take a breath too. Kind of slow it all down. Because when we look at these stressors, I know you just look at these 6 here, and I have 4 more on the next page, that it can seem really overwhelming. And I'm sure they look familiar to you, that you're experiencing a lot of these stressors. But as we do, and these are unique to parents, by the way, because everyone experiences stressors in life. And I'm not trying to talk about them to stress you out more, but just to acknowledge that parenting is really hard, caregiving is really hard. And so while I discuss them, that these stressors, stretch, breathe, doodle, do whatever you need to do, but also just say, okay, yeah, I am experiencing stressors, and this is also why I might be struggling at this time. So let's take them one at a time. Okay, so time demands. There's a lot of demands on your time. The average employment work hours for parents have increased over time. Right now, it's increased to almost 35 hours a week, which is more than it has been ever before. So you're struggling between trying to take care of kids at home and employment demands. Balancing those things also with children, all the things that we have to do. Actually, the primary child care demands are higher than ever before. You have to take physical care of your children, educational related activities, taking kids to all of their sports and other kind of hobbies that they have to do. And the time spent weekly on primary child care has increased 40% among mothers, and hear this, 154% among fathers. That's a lot. And mostly probably that much more among fathers because fathers are involved more than ever before. So it's a lot of hours that's being spent, and it's taking away the time that parents are sleeping and leisure activities that they could be spending, and also with their partners. Let's look at these financial pressures. I don't think I have to tell you that concerns about finances lead to anxiety and overwhelming well-being. Um, we're concerned about childcare costs that seem to be higher. There's employment insecurity, income insecurity. 1 out of 4 parents are concerned about not having enough food or money for basic needs, and 2 out of 3 parents say they often worry about money. And this is compared to 1 out of 3 non parent adults. Okay, are you surprised to see technology and social media over there? Uh, this is an area that so many parents are concerned about. We've seen such a rapid adoption and evolution of technology and social media. Even the youngest of parents out there um, aren't as experienced with social media and evolution as most of their children, because it's just ever changing all the time. Um, 70% of parenting is now more difficult. 70% of parents say that parenting is now more difficult than it was 20 years ago. And the top 2 reasons that they say that is because of technology and social media. It's so scary. Things are always changing. And a lot of parents really worry about that. Looking at expectations, our society has so many expectations for parents, and it starts from actually when you're either pregnant or expecting to get a child. Um, and given the fact that a lot of us live online, or society lives online, we're often susceptible to hearing about other people's opinions about how we should raise our children. It's all these kind of back and forth conflicts or opinions, from bottles versus breastfeedings, timeouts versus gentle parenting. Um, should I give a cell phone or not, and at what age? Should it be at 8 years old or 8th grade, or not until they're in college? And the list goes on and on and on, and that's a lot of pressure. And everybody has an opinion, from grandma to the lady at Walmart, to mom of 4 on the online forum. So it's so easy, even for parents who have the strongest of opinions and boundaries, to feel a lot of stress about all of these expectations, and to feel a lot of anxiety and failure, and to feel like they're not meeting their children's needs. Loneliness and isolation is something that parents is unique, not unique to parents, but more parent adults than non-parent adults report feeling. And this lack of social support can lead to a lot of mental health concerns, and certainly to a lot of stress. In a survey in 2021, approximately 65% of parents and guardians, and even more single parents, 77% of single parents, reported feeling a lot of isolation and loneliness. And this is understandable, because even though parents are almost never alone. I mean, think about it, especially until your children are almost teenagers, you can't even go to the bathroom alone. Um, it doesn't mean you have adult conversation, um, especially if you are parents of young children. So you need that connection in order to feel like you can have you need other people in order to feel that connection, and those people need to be adults. Lack of resources. So when parents are feeling a lot of the stress, when they have financial pressures, when they have children who might have mental health concerns, or when they have their own, but there aren't places they can go, this also can make it more difficult for them to have effective stress management, and for them also just to compound all of the stress and anxiety they're feeling. All right. All of the things we just talked about, that can cause a lot of sleep deprivation. And we all know that if you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to feel more stressed. You're going to feel less able to meet the world and all the demands that the world has. And it actually can cause more, or at least mimic, a lot of mental health conditions. It can exacerbate a lot of physical health conditions, and definitely can lead to, like it says, burnout, irritability, and a lot of difficulty with parenting. When children's safety, this is another one of those number one concerns that a lot of parents had. Many parents are concerned about, if my child goes to school, will they be safe? All the time, it seems like, anyway, that we're hearing about school shootings. And even though they aren't, the actual risk to our children isn't as much as it appears, again, with the advent of so much social media, of the media itself, the TV media, blasting things and playing things 24/7, it just increases our sense of danger and fear. And we also, as parents, often fear that our children will be at risk for drugs and alcohol and bullying. And all of these sorts of things have created this much increased sense of anxiety around our children's safety. There are a lot of health concerns that are and challenges that our children um, can face. Especially right now, there's been more of an epidemic around children experiencing a lot of depression and anxiety. And many parents have a lot of concern that their children are going to face, actually 3 out of 4 parents are concerned about children are going to have issues with anxiety and depression, which makes sense because it is a current youth mental health crisis. But then when we look at parents of children with intellectual and developmental disabilities or other mental health concerns, they face a lot more stress surrounding having to learn different skills, navigate different systems that are often very complex, and there's a lot of financial pressures that go along with that. And so these health concerns that their children face, or they worry about their children will face, creates a lot of stress in parents and caregivers. And finally, kind of going along with all of this, is parents often have to navigate new challenges, whether it's a new stage that you know, a child just typically will come upon because it's a new developmental stage, or it is because of a child's health concern. Trying to manage all of this on top of all the stress that parents already face is a challenge, and increases and compounds all of the additional stress. Okay, so another deep breath. That was a lot of stressors. Hopefully you haven't tuned out on me already. That was, quite, like I said, quite the list of possible stressors. So if you were shaking your head like, okay, yep, 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 more often than not, then you know that there's a reason that you feel the way that you feel. And when we're looking at this list, you probably already like, yeah, I already feel very overwhelmed. I'm exhausted. I'm irritable. I'm tired. And that's a condition of life. It is, but parents often feel that way too because of all the things that we talked about. And so everyone needs to take care of themselves. Everyone needs to, build resilience, build coping skills, and we will be talking about that in just a minute. But when is that stress too high? When is the stress too much? And when is it a sign of something even more serious? So here are some different signs of possible mental health conditions or problems. So if you're experiencing many of these emotional indicators or behavioral changes or physical and cognitive symptoms or social signs, or if it's a significant change from what you have been feeling in the past, then that means that you should reach out for help. And again, we'll talk about that in the upcoming slides. So what do? How do we, as parents, build some resilience and coping skills when life is so busy and there's hardly feels like time to sleep? And you probably already are doing something, so I don't want to forget that. And some of these things we talk about, maybe you already are doing, and pat yourself on the back for that. Okay. Number one, build support and connection. Support really, honestly, is paramount. Connection, number one. We talked about loneliness, right? Well, it's so important to figure out who you connect with, who's your connection. Relationships are really, really important. I'm sure you already have relationships in your life beyond your children, the little people in your life. And figuring out who those people are, and relationships at all levels are really important. So, of course, those one or two people who are the most meaningful to you, whether it be a best friend, a family member, um, whoever that is very important. But it's also really important to cultivate those other relationships that might be just connections, but not necessarily people that you um, lean on and tell everything to. And the reason why is it's good to have kind of a network. So maybe it's someone who you go and when you walk your dog, it's someone that you just kind of say hi to, you chat with for a couple minutes, and you share recipes with. Or maybe it's someone when you drop off your child for soccer, or you're watching soccer, it's another parent. Instead of sitting alone, you're kind of talking about your kids together. All these sorts of relationships are important. They're building connections, um, and cultivating that is critical in helping to stave off loneliness, and also help if you need something in the future, you can reach out and talk to that person and use that connection. You can also do that through, uh, parenting groups or leaning on your faith communities. So, in order to do that, I want you to think about your faith community. Are there people, like, if this is something that maybe you're struggling with a little bit, think about your faith community. Are there particular people in your faith community who you feel um, a stronger connection to? Is that someone you could reach out to in there? Are there parents from your children's sports teams or activities that you could maybe strike up a little bit more conversation with? What about your close friends? Are there people maybe your close friends maybe you can go out with, or maybe it's kind of hard to go out with because your children are too small, or maybe they aren't so small, but both of you are so busy, your schedules never match up. But maybe you can make time to text or talk on the phone on a regular basis, make kind of a date for yourselves, even if it isn't for too long. So just in general, think about someone maybe you're close to, or and you haven't really connected with in a while, or you want to be close to again. How can you strengthen that relationship? How can you reach out? So taking care of yourself. Look at this list. I really doubt that anything on this list is a surprise to you. So when you look at this list, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? Are you like, "Oh, I do every single one of these things. I give myself a 10 out of 10." Or are you thinking, "Ugh, who has time? I mean, it's good, but who has time to do any of this?" Okay, I think probably a lot of us might be in that second category. And if that's okay, if you are, that's fine. I completely understand. Let's just review really quickly why all of these things are important, and then let's talk about how do you do any of these things. So first of all, sleep and nutrition. I don't think anyone will argue sleep and nutrition is important, but why? So sleep is so fundamentally important. Sleep is when our brain revitalizes, it takes care of all its business at the end of the day, kind of puts itself back together. A lot of mental health conditions, when you go in to see a doctor or like a physician, a psychologist, a therapist, and you think maybe something is going on, like a mental health condition, they will ask you about sleep. If you have really poor sleep, but you fix your sleep, a lot of times mental health condition, it might even go away just by fixing your sleep. That's how important sleep is. Nutrition is really important. A lot of times it's hard for us to get good nutrition, um, but the better that you can try with that, it is important. Moving your body, regular exercise. Again, that is something that is important both for our physical health and for our mental health. It can improve, headaches as well as depression and anxiety. Being outside, um, just connecting with nature, not being inside all the time under lamp lights, but instead being under natural light, again, can improve our mood. And also, often when you're outdoors, you're moving your body. Um, and allocating time for interests. So this part is really like making time for yourself. And if you're learning something new, I don't know if you know this, but learning something new can help with, in the very long run, help with staving off dementia and Alzheimer's. Finally, managing our stressors effectively. This one's a little more tricky than some of the other ones, but what are the ways that we can learn to cope and take care of all the things that, like problem solving? So, problem solving, uh, like the things that are getting in our way that are creating a lot of stress in our lives. This one isn't an easy one. This is actually, in some ways, a little bit harder, but meeting things head on and trying to figure out how to break it down and deal with it effectively. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about why they're important, what do you do about it? Because if I told you go do all five of those things, you'd be like, okay, you might say yes, but it would be really hard. And it kind of be like New Year's resolutions. It might work great for a week or two, but then it would probably fail. Very few people are successful with New Year's resolutions when they take that approach. So instead, it's really a better approach to pick maybe one thing, maybe two, and start really, really small. So let's say you decide to pick sleep and you say, you know what? I'm going to just try to have an earlier bedtime, or I'm going to try to make my bedtime routine like I might fix my bedtime routine like I would do for my child. I'm going to turn off my screen like at 9 o'clock because I know that having screen time, late at night disrupts having a good night's rest. Or maybe I'm going to move my body more. I'm going to move my body more, starting with 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Get my steps up to at least 4,000 steps a day. Things like that. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to take my dog for a walk. I'm going to take my child for a walk. These are the kind of things you do, small steps. Because if you don't start with small steps, you'll never get there, and small steps will get you the place you want to go. When we're talking about coping skills and stress, helping with our stress, let's talk about mindfulness practices. Um, this can really help. And things like meditation, deep breathing, yoga, but it doesn't have to be those things exclusively. It can really help reduce our stress levels. Um, and we can do it, can help with, and we can help also model for our children. So this is the only other time I'm really talking about children, because really this is supposed to be about you. So if we encourage our children also to maybe meditate with us, if our children are young enough, they'd love to do a little meditation with us or deep breathing with us. If we encourage them to, or even yoga, kids love to do yoga. Um, and the more we bring these kind of practices into our family, and the more they see us problem solving effectively or talking about feelings, like, I was feeling upset right now, but now I'm gonna, go take a break, or now I'm gonna do some deep breathing. The more we can have a more effective um, coping skills for our entire family. Practice, practice, practice. Practice makes progress. We're not trying to be perfect. Um, we're going to practice these and again, model them for our family. Practice when you're calm, not when you're already upset. So, and practice with another habit. So maybe every morning after you brush your teeth, practice breathing a couple times, or after you you take your pills at night or your vitamins at night, practice meditation for 5 minutes. And then finally, focus on the wins. Where have things been going well? And because our brain is attached to negative, and so it's really important that we intentionally decide to focus on what we've been doing well. And this will help increase our progress. Okay, so all of those things will help build our resilience, help build our well-being. But sometimes we really do not need extra help, like we talked about before. And I'm a psychologist, so I'm biased towards therapy, but research shows that therapy does work and can work. So if you need extra help, reach out for therapy. Therapy can be a very safe place to talk to someone who doesn't need you emotionally. They're there for you. Certainly talk to friends. Certainly, that's a perfectly in family. That's a perfectly good thing to do. But sometimes you needed that extra safe space. There's also peer groups, parenting groups, other resources for you when you just need an outside, like just a little bit of extra help for you to help um, with your mental health. And also, it's important to know what other supports are available for you out in the community. It'd be great if our community was better at supporting parents. And certainly, it's good to advocate out there for parents. Um, what should be out there, but right now, it's important, since I'm speaking to you as parents, that you should know if you need something, what to look for. So does your job offer flexible working hours? Ask your employer, or ask your boss if you can come in a little later and leave a little later, or take off 2 hours at this time and work it at a different on a different day. And this, it's very important to have those kinds of things, to know that you can ask for them. It may not be available at your job, but it's worth asking for. And if you do have a job that has it, it is very helpful to parents. Parental leave policies, know what your job offers. Know about if there's any support for mental health. There might be programs that your job offers for mental health for you. And then also, there are programs in the community often that will provide extra support for mental well-being and mental health. Like, for instance, NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, often provides a lot of support for parents. All right, so we made it to the end. Um, I know that parenting is joyful, but it's also messy. I know that it can sometimes make us want to pull our hair out, but I hopefully it is rewarding more days than it's not rewarding. And these little and not so little people that we are trying to guide toward adulthood can be stressful. So I hope that this today, you were able to find some tips for nourishing your mental health and resilience, because your mental well-being matters. You matter. Thank you.